So next up we have Paul Drohsin, who's pulling up the slides. So let me introduce him. Paul has a couple of decades of experience in the electronics and the LED lighting industry. He's held a number of senior roles in management, sales operations, business development, and strategic marketing at companies involved in the electronics manufacturing and management consulting. He's a member of the IEEE and an AMBA and a fellow of the Institute of Leadership and Management. That all from DALI Alliance.
Right, thanks very much for the introduction. And thanks very much to Marcus as well for keeping his presentation very short. That means that I have time to get through quite a lot of material and get you to the break on time, which I'm sure you all care about deeply. So, yeah, I'm Paul Drohsin. I'm the General Manager of DALI Alliance. I'm going to give you an introduction to the DALI Alliance, what we do, what we are, and what we've been doing with Thread. So DALI Alliance is an open global independent consortium of lighting companies, aims to grow the market for lighting control solutions based on DALI. DALI is digital addressable lighting interface, just for those that are technically minded and interested. We're also known as Digital Illumination Interface Alliance, so you might see that in some documentation somewhere. Don't be afraid. And we have over 320 members worldwide, the industry leaders in lighting and control solutions. A snapshot of those is on the right-hand side, obviously a full list on our website as usual. And membership allows certification or registration of products, and I'll dig more deeply into why that's significant. Many of you probably recognise that already. But there are over 2,700 DALI 2 certified products already on the market. And that's juxtaposed against 1,600 DALI version 1 registered products. So, like the other organisations that are presented today, we're a relatively small, lean organisation. You know, our members do the heavy lifting, and we're a small alliance. Snapshot of our key staff here. There's myself. On the technical side, we have Scott, Neil, and a recent addition to the team, Franz, who's really focused on software development, and he joined us last year to focus on the wireless elements. We've got Ronald heading up our technical work group, Tim, who does all our marketing, and unfortunately, our marketing executive recently left us, so we've got an open position there. And we're going to strengthen the team further, I feel, as we run through the course of next year. Members and certified products. So membership continues to grow at quite a pace, actually, similar to that Thread group. Despite global pandemics and wars and what have you that happen around the world, it seems to not affect our membership growth, which tells us something, you know, we're on the right track, we're doing the right things. And similarly, the number of certified products continue to grow, and that's really important for us because some years ago, as an organisation, our members told us we wanted to go towards a certified interoperable standardisation, and we delivered that. And in turn, the members have been avidly certifying their products, you know, and that rate continues to increase, actually. So that's very positive. So talking about the market then, there's a very large installed base of projects spanning more than 3 decades. You can see on our website case studies, winners of the DALI Lighting Awards, which we launched a few years back, ranging from small installations to major infrastructure projects. So, for example, Crossrail in London, which is the 6th largest infrastructure project in the world, I believe. New York City Mass Transit Authority and Beijing Airport. Give you a flavour of how we work. And DALI is the largest wired digital open protocol, according to this analyst in LED Professional a couple of years back. He also said open protocols will be the growth winners over the next few years in smart lighting and connected controls, and that certainly seems to be bearing true, as demonstrated by the large number of certified products. And another global smart lighting market research report said that DALI is the largest segment for smart lighting, with 15% CAGR expected over the next 5 years, and that also seems to be ringing true. I'm not going to dwell on this slide too much, but for those of you that are not familiar with DALI, you might often get told that DALI's old, it's legacy, doesn't evolve, doesn't need to move with the times. Well, we've been pretty busy over the last couple of years, and that includes our activities with Fred, which I'm going to talk about shortly. We have a number of liaisons around the globe. IEC, obviously, we're a global standards organisation, so that's logical. ANSI, we work with them to, and actually many of our standards and certification are adopted by ANSI. We work with an organisation, I don't know if you're familiar with Zaga Consortium, but they specify and standardise mechanical and electrical pin connections for lighting in particular. We have a joint certification program with them called Zaga D4I, which I will mention on a subsequent slide a little bit more. IP Bliss, you've just seen the video, so I don't need any introductions there. You may also have heard of Bluetooth and CSA, and obviously Fred Group is the reason I'm here today. I talked about DALI Lighting Awards, shameless plug, obviously, but also I urge you to go and have a look if you've got an interest in lighting. There are some absolutely astounding projects around the globe. The market is huge for connected lighting controls, and this will just give you a snapshot of what the industry is doing and how, as well as creating fantastic looking projects, they're saving the planet using DALI. So, talking about the certification marks, or certification trademarks. That's one for the lawyers then. So DALI 2 is certification backed by rigorous testing and verification. It's a wired standard. It incorporates all of the DALI parts, and I'll show you a list of those for anyone that's interested later on. D4I, so I mentioned our collaboration with Zaga. So D4I is our certification program for what many call luminaire level lighting control. So it enables plug and play smart connected luminaires, and obviously we do the play bit, the functionality, and Zaga specify and standardize the plug element. So together Zaga D4I gives you plug and play luminaires. That's pretty good. And then more about DALI Plus later on, but that's our new certification program for DALI over wireless or IP-based carriers. First up was Fred. I say the first up. It's the only one we're working on currently, so don't fear that there's going to be a plethora of other standards coming soon. And it's the wireless standard. So it's simply DALI without the wires. That's the key message there. So I'm banging on about certification. Some of you probably recognise the value of that, but just in case in the lighting industry you're not familiar with why that's important. The key to it is this multi-vendor product interoperability. It's delivered by rigorous testing and rigorous and detailed testing, and then independent verification of the test results, policed, if you will, by trademark use, and the products are all traceable in the product database. And it's the multi-vendor element of this that's key, because the lighting design community and building owners, when you install luminaires from different manufacturers, you don't expect different behavior from those luminaires. And if you don't have this interoperability capability and the standardized behavior, then when you dim to, or change the color temperature of a luminaire, you can get different behavior from different luminaire manufacturers, and that's highly undesirable. I'm going to skip through the middle point. The last point here is one for the for anyone that's potentially working with people that would develop products. So we create the standards that eventually end up in the IEC and elsewhere. And those are all freely available. Once they're released, they're available on our website as usual. And anything that's not in the IEC is on our website. Anything that's in the IEC is from the IEC. But we also create the test sequences, which we provide only to our members. And that's a critical point, because if you're developing a product, what we've seen is that recently some organisations have tried to work with DALI that have been unfamiliar with DALI. And they've got all the information from the IEC, got information from our website, developed their product, become a member at the end of that process, and then started to test. And then they found out all the things that they should have done along the way to make testing go smoothly, and that cost them quite a lot of time and probably a lot of money. So words of advice there: if you're considering developing a product or working with anyone that's developing product, then early membership of the DALI Alliance is highly desirable. I already talked about the products in our database and the trademarks, so I'll skip over this one. So I mentioned DALI parts. Some of them are mandatory, some of them are optional, depending on the type of product. I'll give you an example, or a couple of examples here. So self-contained emergency. So only about 10% of lighting is emergency lighting. Typically, it depends where you are around the globe. So it doesn't make sense that you want self-contained emergency in your general illumination LED drivers, right? You just don't need that part usually. So some parts are optional. Same with color control. You don't need color control in a luminaire that only has one color. So these things are optional. The other thing I'll say about this slide is in progress. Obviously, we delivered the standards last year, or the specifications, and we're just working on the tests. Part 341 and 342 down in the bottom right-hand corner there for Bluetooth mesh and Zigbee. Those are what we call gateway programs of translation devices. You see there here under the wired DALI 2 protocol or standard, and that's because they're wired, even though they're wireless. So I'll explain that further on the further slide. Before I do that, what can DALI do? So DALI is digital control of light quality with intelligent feedback. So that means precise, repeatable light output control, standardized dimming curve, occupancy and light level sensing, luminaire energy and diagnostic data. Emergency lighting, I'll touch on. So automated testing, that's important for the industry, as well as the ability to control emergency lighting on the same network as your general lighting. And DALI delivers that pretty much uniquely, I think. Color control for human-centric lighting. So this is just a snapshot. It's not everything that DALI can do, but it's a snapshot. So I mentioned that standardized behavior. So we'll take dimming as an example. Accurate, repeatable, standardized light output control. So standardized dimming curve, I don't think that's anything new. It's not rocket science. Dimming curve is designed to match human eye sensitivity and brightness perception. Also, this is nothing that's going to break the mold. But the testing procedure requires the measurement of actual light output. So that's with a light source, the actual light output from the luminaire. If you ask for 50%, you get 50%. If you ask for 25%, you get 25%, and so on and so forth. And that applies, it's consistent from fixture to fixture, consistent between different manufacturers of fixture. And that's really the key thing. And the same principle applies, across all of the things that we standardize. So color, CCT, if you change the color of the luminaire, then we standardize that as well. I said I'd talk about data. So here I've put data for specifiers and facilities managers. Of course, there are many more people that applies to. So luminaire data, that's information about the luminaire itself, what's in there, its maximum light output, its color temperature, CRI, so color quality, light distribution. They can all be stored in the control gear, the driver to you and I, with standardized format and locations in the memory banks. We also support energy reporting, so that provides real-time power and energy usage for each and every luminaire. And diagnostic and maintenance, that's operating data for the control gear and lamps, including failure conditions, runtime information. So that's pretty important that if you want to do predictive maintenance, you can know how long your luminaire has been running for, how hard it's been running, and you can assess if it's any of the components are running close to their useful life or end of their useful life, and do predictive maintenance. And a utility company in the US told me that that their average number of visits to repair a luminaire is between 2 and 3. It's actually 2.4 visits to repair a luminaire. So if you've got all of this information accessible remotely about what that luminaire is, then you can cut that down significantly and access that information. So rather than going to the luminaire, figure out which one's failed, if there are multiple luminaires, then open it up, find out which components you need, then go away, order those components, come back at another time and install them. You can cut out a lot of that process by having this information remotely accessible. And then I talked about data, particularly the energy data, but also the sensor data. So I'm probably preaching to the choir here a little bit, but obviously the importance of controls and the things that you can do with controls and connected controls is really significant. So back in the day, I'm looking around the room, I don't want to make any judgments about how old people are, but we probably all remember what we call legacy light sources, fluorescent, HID, even incandescent light bulbs. And those sources were either not dimmable, or even if you could dim them, you know, the gains in energy saving were not really proportional to the level of dimming. Along came LEDs, and they saved a bit of energy. They were a bit more efficient, but many of them were non-dimmable. Then they were dimmable, so that helped really a lot. Then people started to add in sensing and controls, and then you really started to see the benefits. But if you add all of those things together and you add intelligence, and by intelligence what I mean is not just having that data, but analysing the data, understanding how a space is utilised, understanding what the occupancy levels are, when they are occupied, when they're not occupied, even looking for hotspots of luminaires that are, you know, using more energy than others for some reason. You can really add intelligence to that, and the energy savings are really significant. I'm going to leave this one up for a second or two while I waffle on through what wired DALI lighting control system looks like. I want to burn this into your retinas so you remember what it looks like when we start to talk about the wireless programs that we've been working on. So on the left-hand side there, you see an application controller. It might have many subnets, or it might have just one. And the application controller is really the brains of the operation. It's the thing that listens to the bus, understands what's happening, what sensors are doing, what the input devices are doing, and reacts accordingly and tells the lighting to change accordingly. And on there you might have, as we mentioned before, you have your general lighting, the luminaire in this case, emergency lighting on the same control network, that's great. Occupancy and light sensor, for example. An input device might be a push button, might be a rotary control, might be something that changes the color temperature, or even a graphical interface. And then probably a hub or something that interfaces to a building management system or something at a higher level. So that's what a wired DALI lighting control system typically looks like. So now let's talk about wireless. So DALI Alliance members told us they wanted two distinctly different ways of doing wireless. First, on the left-hand side, those gateways that I mentioned earlier, that I said live in the wired domain. That's because from a DALI perspective, they are wired. They're just DALI as you know it today. And then there's an interface or a translation device. We call it a gateway, but it's not a gateway in the IT sense. And that then does the translation between either Bluetooth or Zigbee, and allows control and access to the data that DALI provides. But all of that's done on the wireless side, so it's done in either in Zigbee or Bluetooth. And then what we're doing with Thread is what we're going to call DALI Plus, and that is simply wireless DALI. It's DALI without the wires. It's carried over a carrier. In this case, we're using Thread, and those DALI devices communicate with each other without the traditional DALI wired bus. So why did we choose Thread? Well, it just so happens that we were looking for a low power, secure, IP-based mesh protocol, and Thread just kind of nails all of those things. So that was a no-brainer. As I mentioned, that then enables the DALI Plus devices to communicate over a carrier using the existing DALI commands, no translation. So that's different from the dedicated pair of wires from the DALI 2 and D4i. Different from the translation to other protocols, for example, Bluetooth and Zigbee gateways. And critically, it's the same sophisticated DALI lighting control features as the wired options. So that's really important to the lighting design community and the user community. Everybody that knows DALI today will just simply understand it's the same DALI, but without those wires. It's the same access to the rich set data from the control gear, the luminaires, the sensors, and the same certified interoperable products with the standardized lighting behavior. So it's literally just DALI without the wires. Now, is DALI Plus going to replace wired DALI? I don't think so. For the foreseeable future, you will always need wires to luminaires. You need to get the power to them somehow. So as long as that remains the case, then it's kind of logical that you would run DALI control wires to those luminaires as well. And in the majority of new builds, that would be the case. You might want to add a bit of wireless for flexibility. In the new era, we talk about dynamic spaces and flexibility and upgradability. Of course, adding wireless is it makes that easier. But in new builds, be predominantly wired. And then conversely, at the other end of the spectrum, for existing buildings, and in particular historic buildings or retrofits, you might want to go predominantly wireless, but you'll still need wires, as we mentioned before, somewhere in that project. So anywhere in between, depending on the application, DALI Plus really enables that option to use DALI wirelessly or wired interchangeably and flexibly. That's really the power of it. So to that end then, how do you connect an existing DALI wired network or an existing DALI luminaire, for example, to a wireless DALI Plus network? Well, get something to bridge that gap, and handily somebody's called it bridge, and that makes the physical connection between wireless and wired. Again, no translation, it's all still DALI. And then thinking about scalability, the IP networks can bring. So we're not talking about scalability. We're not expecting thousands of devices on a single subnet. You know, that's not simply not good architecture. We don't change the laws of IP architecture. So you know, you never connect 1,000 devices to a single wireless router. So why would you connect, you know, thousands of devices to a single DALI Plus network? Doesn't make sense. But what you can have is a network of DALI Plus with thread devices. You have a bridge then to connect them to either wired luminaires or wired, you know, an existing wired network. And then you have another one. Same thing somewhere else. Could be another room in the building. Could be another floor of that building. Could be another building on the same site. Could be another site, you know, on another continent. That's the beauty of IP, right? It could be anywhere. So, and you can have those connected and you know, connected to your central management system or BIM model, and really understand that you can have all of that information at your fingertips. We're on the home stretch now. Don't worry, guys. I'll get you to that break on time. So key adoption factors. What do we need for DALI Plus with Thread? Well, first of all, we need to create trust in wireless networks. And probably those of you in the consumer space will think, well, everyone's got Wi-Fi in their house. You know, what's the problem there? People just trust Wi-Fi, right? Well, in commercial buildings, that's not really the case. So we think about product life cycles that have to exist over multiple decades. Building, you know, typically lasts 50 years or, you know, considerably more than that. And the product life cycles are longer. Our members typically get asked for warranty periods of 10 years or more even. So it's a slightly different mindset in that scenario. So we need to build the trust that wireless networks are appropriate. And I'll come on to that in a moment. One positive thing that we can do when we move into the wireless space is that we're building on the existing long established advantages of DALI. You may have heard me mention that it's standardized, certifiable, interoperable, and those things, you know, really play well when the message is simple. It's just DALI without the wires. That's a pretty powerful message to the lighting community, at least. One thing that will help is improving the commissioning tools and capabilities, make it suitable for commercial buildings. For example, lighting is typically installed before IT even exists in a building. Could be even before the owner or occupier is even determined. You might not even know that. You might build the building and have it generically capable, and then at some point along the way, or even, you know, along that building's journey, commissioning or recommissioning will take place a number of times to adapt the space. So really, the tools and commissioning capabilities need to match that dynamic activity. And then also, sorry, the other thing is that obviously, because lighting is installed before IT exists in the building, it's typically installed by a guy with a multimeter and a screwdriver. He won't have a laptop. He probably does have a mobile phone. So again, making sure that those commissioning tools match the application, the way that you're going to be used, that will be something that will help adoption significantly. The other thing is that we need to accelerate product development life cycles. So what I mean by that is, or purpose of it, is to make sure that when we release DALI Plus with Thread's certification in the early part of next year, that there are plenty of products available. That will build confidence in the market. That will, you know, having that choice of vendors and various options, that will really help drive the adoption. So how can Thread help the DALI Alliance? Well, on the technical side, as I mentioned, commissioning methods, so avoiding those complex handling of install codes, improve the installer accuracy, just generally, help the installers and commissioning with tools. Also, thinking about reliability, we can drive the proof points by having a large-scale testing, interoperability, coexistence events. So DALI Alliance does this from time to time with its members. We run interoperability events and what our tech guys call plug fests, so you might be familiar with those. And I think it would be good if we do the same with DALI Plus with Thread. Those multiple vendors, again, cross-vendor interoperability, really, if we've got those proof points, that would be very valuable and very powerful. I mentioned the chip vendors, in particular, accelerating product availability with reference designs, ideally certify those reference designs. So, that really is proof of concept. Someone, particularly anyone new to DALI, for example, sensor manufacturers, comms manufacturers, they might want to step into the space and make it easy for them to, or easier for them to get to a DALI Plus certified product quickly. That will really help. So if the reference designs are certified, that really is a proof point that can drive it forward quickly. The last couple of points for me: marketing, promotion targeted for people we don't reach well. There I'm talking about the royal we, the DALI we. So we don't really reach well the stack developers, IT professionals that Thread Group typically might be reaching, and I appreciate some of those are present in this room, so that's a good start. Promotion and repetition to those who we do already reach. So coming in from slightly different angles, if we're targeting IT professionals or lighting professionals, there might be a very slightly different angle on that. To that end, we can develop together some white papers that might be useful. One targeted at lighting professionals, one targeted at IT professionals. And if we collaborate, then we can align the messaging very closely so that we deliver a relatively uniform target to those professionals in the different groups. Technical marketing. So then once we develop this large-scale testing, we can build that confidence and we can talk about it. That would be useful, and allay those market concerns. And then finally, the one thing we can do as of today is keep in regular contact. So set up a joint Marcom call monthly as we run towards certification release. As I say, we're expecting that in the early part of next year. So we're really on the home run now. That's all from me. I'm sure you'll be pleased to hear. And I'm not sure if there's time for any questions or if we want to run straight into the break. But I'm here all day, so just come up and ask me. And thanks very much for listening. Thanks very much for the invite here and allowing me to speak to you. Thanks.